In this video, I'm going to be sharing how to spot if someone is faking a disability. If you haven't checked out part 1 from last week where I share how to spot a fake disabled or accessible parking placard, as you see here, I highly suggest you check that out because this little series that I'm doing for Invisible Disabilities Week is going in a sequence and I'm going to be sharing different perspectives. So stay tuned because that's coming all right up. Hey everyone, it's Effie. Welcome back to my channel where I share the good, the bad, and the ugly of living with a chronic illness and other lifestyle topics. If that sounds cool to you, make sure to hit subscribe and the bell button to be notified every single time I post a new video. And of course, if you're new to my YouTube channel, make sure to hop on over to the About section where you can find a more detailed list of things you can expect to find on here. Many of you watching right now probably already know the answer to this, but there are other people out there who don't, and that's why I'm making this video. So a lot of people who are not really understanding of the invisible disability, invisible illness, or visible disability journey may not be aware of the simple fact that you can't tell if someone is faking a disability because there's so much gray matter in between, and I always say that this isn't a matter that's black and white or cut and dry. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that people don't realize. Major spoiler, I know I ruined it for you all, but for those of you who knew the answer to that, comment below, let me know. And for anyone who may not have known this fact, also let us know in the comments. There's no judgment here because we are all learning, and it's just about educating one another and being like, hey, you can't tell if someone's faking a disability because of X, Y, and Z, which I'll go into further in this video. But even before I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I didn't really know much about this lingo or this whole other world out there. I was oblivious, ignorant, and naive myself. And even 15 years later, I'm still learning things every day that I didn't know yesterday or a month ago or 2 years ago. So one of the main reasons why you can't spot if someone is faking a disability is because not all disabilities are the same. And first and foremost, I just wanted to say that I just got done recording a podcast episode with the real life show Living with a Chronic Illness, and you can find them on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite. It won't be uploaded this week, but whenever they get it ready and up and running on their site, I will obviously make sure to link it in my Instagram bio and also share it within my stories and in a post, so be on the lookout for that. But we discussed in length certain aspects of this discussion and how with invisible disabilities and invisible illnesses, of course, many of these people living with them, including myself, we have good days and bad days, ups and downs, and there might be one moment within the day that we're feeling amazing, but then 2 hours later we're feeling like total crap. There may be a span of weeks and months that we're doing really good, but then all of a sudden we come into a flare or higher disease activity where we're not feeling that good. I'll give this example for context. Let's say you are in your car and you happen to see someone limping or using a cane as they enter a store. And then when they come out of the store, they're not really relying on their cane that much, but if they are, they're not limping anymore. You may automatically assume that they are faking their disability, especially if they're parked in a disabled parking spot or accessible spot, and they all of a sudden get into their car with no sense of struggling whatsoever. But again, with invisible illness and invisible disabilities, we have our ups and downs. There may be 1 minute where we're feeling good, and then the next minute we're not. Also keep in mind, a lot of these people who live with these chronic conditions or invisible illnesses and such take medication. So don't forget that some of these medications help with pain, inflammation, or other various things that are needed. There's been mornings when I have dealt with morning stiffness and more inflammation, but once I start taking my medication, that lessens and I start to feel better throughout mid-morning and afternoon on some days. Other days I wake up at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. and I feel fine. So you always have to keep that in mind that you don't know necessarily what someone else is going through. And that is the same with everything in life. You lose a job, a loved one passes away, or you have a broken heart because you broke up with a significant other or your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, you don't necessarily see the grief of losing a loved one. You don't see a broken heart. Yeah, we may see that in the movies, like we had discussed in this podcast episode that I was on, watching someone in a rom-com, for instance, and they have like mascara down their face, or they're eating all this junk food while they're crying and watching Netflix or whatever. And you don't necessarily see someone stressing out over losing a job. And that's the same thing with invisible illness, invisible disabilities. You don't see that struggle either. So that's always good to keep in mind, that when you feel that someone is faking a disability, or you're trying to find out how you can spot if someone is faking disability, you can't. Just like you can't really know what other people are going through who may pass you on the sidewalk. And just think how awkward it would be if, let's say, everyone knew you lost your job and you told people, hey, I lost my job yesterday. And then people come up to you and they start to be like, oh, well, did you really lose your job? Or I don't think you did. Same thing with invisible disabilities and illnesses. A lot of people get questioned and accused for not having these conditions that impact them on a daily life. Losing your job impacts you on a daily life until you find something else. And with people living with invisible illnesses and disabilities, it impacts them longer than necessary oftentimes. Sometimes people get better, sometimes people get worse. That's why a lot of these invisible illnesses are labeled progressive, because over time they can get worse. Just imagine if you were told over and over and over again that, oh no, you didn't lose your job, like as an analogy. Well, it's like, well, then how would you respond to that person after you've been told that so many times? You're going to be like, well, I don't think you look like a BIDCH, but it seems like you are. Or you can also stay silent and take the hit, which I have done myself, because I don't necessarily, like to be confrontational with strangers if I don't have to be. But if you get pushed to the limit, sometimes you have to stick up for yourself. And if someone catches me in one of my sassafras moods, then they may hear it from me. Otherwise, I probably stay silent. If I have enough energy and time, I will educate them, which I try to do all the time. At the end of the day, that's how we are going to raise awareness, but we also have to understand that not everyone will understand our journeys, and we will have to come to accept that as well, because everyone sees things through their own eyes and their own perception. And yes, there are people out there who do fake a disability by doing what I said, like, for instance, limping and then not limping, or trying to put on a facade of that they need assistance when they really don't. And with disabilities, there's such a wide spectrum of the different types. For certain disabilities, you may find that someone relies on accessible aids one day and then they don't need them the next. And I know that I've heard of so many stories of people who, let's say, need a wheelchair and they're at a concert, for instance, but then people see them standing up and then starting to walk, and then they accuse them of not being disabled and that they're faking their disability. So that's like one way to understand that people may rely on their aids, but they don't need them all the time. Other times they may have a chronic condition where it allows them to walk, but they may not have enough strength or stamina or endurance to withstand long walks or periods of long standing. So that's why they need their wheelchair with them. But again, it's not really something that there is a manual on in regards to how to find out if someone is indeed doing this. We hope that everyone has a good moral compass out there and knows right from wrong. And so that's all I have for this video. Before we go, I wanted to announce the Spoonie Star Support of the Week. Here they are. Thank you so much for showing me love on my Instagram. And if you want to be featured on my next video, all you need to do is stay active on my Instagram and YouTube channel. For the majority of the time that I give these shout outs, I have been picking people out from Instagram. I've done one time with someone on YouTube who wrote a comment under one of my videos. I will make sure to do that in upcoming videos, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, guys, bye!